and welcome to the new edition of Dr.Lamba's Awakening Call. We have already been talking about the institutions of democracy. We have been talking how media and judiciary are supposed to be custodians of democratic rights and democratic principles. Rights everybody talks about. Principles are often sacrificed. Media has become a hack, a prostitute in the hand of the wealthy, leftist and populist agenda. But in democratic countries, it's the judiciary which is a beacon light, rather a lighthouse of direction, sensible interpretation, and protection of the rights of the people, and protection of the Constitution. Indian Supreme Court has been very, very unpredictable in the discharge of its duties. And I have often criticized it for its stepping in where it need not and should not. The political bias has influenced the judges in the judgment. And not only that, it has also ventured into those areas where it is not supposed to go. It has arrogated to itself those rights which should not have been there. But the decision given just a few days back is a really, really remarkable decision where it has gone against the populist opinion. It has protected the Constitution, interpreted it correctly as per the likes of the Constitution makers and we the people of India. As a matter of fact, the political system always sacrifices merit and believes in giving handouts, freebies, lollipops to the people, with the result that the people become drones, inefficient, and the sense of entitlement is developed in the people. Now, India has a peculiar system. They, in the beginning, thought it to be a sort of affirmative action. Not any longer. The scheduled castes, the Dalits, the untouchables at one time, have been exploited. Absolutely. They have been deemed to be subhuman species. And that's why the makers of the Constitution said that these deprived classes, which have been exploited for the centuries and centuries, their human values degraded. They had no opportunity to learn. They must have some sense of affirmative action, some promotion, some upliftment. So the reservations were granted for 15 years. And purpose was that the second generation of the people would automatically be able to compete without any support. They forgot that the politicians, to have their vote banks, would not let it happen. The Constitution makers proposed, the politicians disposed. 15 years became 25, 30, 35, 50, and ultimately it became a permanent feature. The sense of entitlement was to that extent that the daughter of the then defense minister became an IAS officer against the quota of IAS officers, the senior most bureaucratic jobs in India. Later on she became the speaker of Indian Parliament, Meera Kumar, and her father was a defense minister. Now imagine, how can you give a reservation to a defense minister who already has more than entitlement as compared to the other citizens? But it was to be. The sons and the daughters would grab the seats in the medical colleges and engineering colleges, because even if they get 30% marks, they were entitled for admission, while otherwise a student getting 90-95% marks might be refused admission. And so much so that one time Supreme Court had to say that quotas must not exceed 50%. When Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister, they had made it up to 60 and like that. But it is assumed such proportions that quotas for the communities, for the castes, for the deprived purpose. Originally it was supposed to be for the economically deprived section, but no longer so. So recently one state government said that there will be no quota for promotions. Uttarakhand is a North Indian state, a sub-Himalayan state, and they said that we will fill the post of state without providing reservation. And the acceptance clause, sub-clause 4A, Article 16, which guarantees equality of opportunity in the matters of public employment, would be observed in spirit. Because the laws, otherwise, they are not having the same sanctity as the Constitution has, and they do not become fundamental rights. So the case went to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court agreed and said yes, reservations is not a fundamental right, and this decision of the Uttarakhand government is valid. As a matter of fact, a wave of happiness should have gone, and it did go. The people who had been at the receiving end because of the reservations, who are being deprived of their rightful dues, were happy. But would the politicians like it? Every party, irrespective of their affiliations, said yes, that's right. Now BJP has a certain reservation. It's not in favor of reservation, but it cannot afford to lose votes. And you have seen the elections in Delhi which took place. The freebies, free electricity, free water, have and made people vote for the party. We gave them doles, lollipops, freebies. Little did people know that what they are getting free is not free. Somebody is paying for that. And that somebody is an honest taxpayer. But they say, well, who cares as long as we are getting something free? In reality, the logic of reservation demands that they have a self-cancelling character. You have reservation for a period. You expect the people to come up to a certain level and compete on their own. And then the reservation is withdrawn. As originally it was thought for one generation or two generations. But now there are fifth generations, and they are extremely, extremely well off. They can afford it. But now they have developed a sense of entitlement. Now imagine, the federal minister, the central ministers, leave the Jivaram, there are many others whose sons and daughters, because of being sons and daughters of scheduled castes, are having the reservation. And then, imagine if it's contended that the reservations institute equality of opportunity, then they can not continue to be in perpetuity, not forever. There has to be a limit. You give an opportunity, equality of opportunity, if they are deprived for some time. But that some time does not become all the time. And the goal will have to be attained at some point. 70 years have passed since the Republic came into being. And more than that, add 5 more, because in 47 to 52. So 75 years, and then still you say that those deprived classes have not attained equality, they have not got the equal opportunity. then there's something wrong somewhere. Remove that wrong. But you cannot perpetuate an act of injustice against the merit, against the deserving. The people who belong to the higher classes, they might be very poor, but they will be deprived of the right because a guy coming from the depressed classes, maybe he's billionaire, but still the name carries a certain tag belonging to XYZ community, so he gets a reservation, he gets a job, and he might be incompetent. Somebody was laughing the other day. He said, well, the doctors in the premier medical institutes are incompetent, and that's why all the ministers, when they want to be treated, don't go to these premier institutes, but they come to America or go to Europe for treatment. That's the situation. Surely, it should be up to the governments, the executive, the parliament to determine if and when those political goals are achieved. And if they have not been achieved through reservation, adopt some other strategy. Why keep on beating the same line which according to you has failed? If 75 years is not a sufficient time to provide equal opportunity, then let there be reservation for the education. That's it. Nothing more. Making reservation itself a fundamental right denies any flexibility and is in fact a subversion of equality of opportunity. How do you say it's an equal opportunity that a guy belonging to so-called high classes may be economically absolutely down and out? On the other side, as I said, a prince almost, the son of the federal minister, well connected, or the daughter of federal minister, even if being absolutely incompetent, goes and becomes and excuse the dream job. You see, what has happened is that once you give any freebie, then the people who receive it take it as a matter of right. And that's a tragedy. What has happened is in India is that the reservations have been turned upside down. The more powerful castes muscle into this space, brandishing their street power. Look at what happened in Rajasthan and Haryana. The Jats, who are very wealthy, they wanted reservations and they got it. The desperation for jobs for millions of youth enter the workforce in an economy which is not very robust, and combined with the comforts and perks of the government job, they have caused those jobs to be coveted one. And all the people with the reservations make a beeline to those jobs. Now, imagine, you'll be amazed, they make use of the reservation to get admission, say, in an engineering college like IIT or in a medical institute. And after having passed their degree, how? You can well understand it. Then they don't become engineer or doctor, they go to civil service. What a horrible wastage of the public fund. Somebody, this deserving candidate, could not become a professional because of the reservation, and now that guy has wasted that money of the government because it costs a lot of money to educate a person to become an engineer or a doctor, and he becomes a civil servant and pen pusher. So the pie is the same, and you say, okay, 50% of this pie is reserved for this group of people, they are entitled to it. And not only that, they are also entitled to the other 50% what they say is unreserved section. So this is not good for marriage. It's not good for the concept of equality of opportunity. As a matter of fact, the modern sense of citizenship transcends all distinction of the caste. And here we say there shall be no discrimination on the basis of caste, and we are creating discrimination. So this judgment of the Supreme Court, and I can assure you, within the next 3 months, a bill will come in the Parliament changing the law and saying, well, the decision of the Supreme Court is kept in the cold storage, is not relevant. As a matter of fact, this is one time the Supreme Court deserves all the plaudits, all the praise. As I said, let the government offer good education, public education, but do not destroy the economy. Do not destroy the national character. The reservations are creating further entitlements and creating a class of parasites, of leeches, blood-sucking, and that is destroying the Indian polity. The sooner the people realize it, the better it shall be for the country and for the nation. But once again, bravo Supreme Court of India, for once, you have taken a very, very appropriate step in upholding the right of the people for real equal opportunity and not for the fake one. Thank you.